Hello everyone, and welcome back to Green Supply Chain Talks. I'm excited to introduce Sebastian Pordomingo. Sebastian is an innovation and sustainability executive with an experience of over 2 decades, working in a strong focus on the chemical industry and the materials industry. Our conversation today, Sebastian, is meant to be truly inspirational. We want to learn about your background and your experience, but most importantly, we want to see how those insights can help other industry leaders navigate the troubled waters that we're seeing ahead in these complex industries. And especially we want to kind of explore or deep dive into the overlap between sustainability and innovation. Okay. Before we get down to the details, let's say, of that conversation, it'd be great if you can tell us a little bit about you and your background.
Okay, thank you very much. First and foremost, Juan, I'm really pleased to be here and sharing this exciting talk. I mean, at the end, as we said before, connecting on a personal level and sharing the experience is what inspires others. So I hope this conversation is insightful for the people to come. As you said, I have like almost 20 years experience working mostly in the chemicals and materials industry throughout different roles between marketing, product management, and now my latest role is as executive in the innovation field for a specialty materials company. So yeah.
Perfect. So certainly, again, 20 years of experience in an industry segment that one might say has evolved pretty drastically through that period of time. Yeah.
Yes.
So let's start the conversation there, right? Let's start the conversation in your experience. And if I can ask again, throughout these 2 decades, in those kind of industrial manufacturing markets, what are some of the examples where you implemented certain innovations that had that sustainability angle to them, right? So sustainability-oriented innovations, examples of kind of success stories of you bringing them into some of the organizations where you worked.
Yeah, one particular experience I remember very well is in the chemicals industry. In my latest experience with a company which was a global player in the coatings and paints industry. There we had a customer. I mean, at the end, the coatings we were supplying to them, they were using their production manufacturing processes. And for the coatings to be able to cure, they were needed to go through an oven. So there was heating being applied to these coatings, and a coating that we developed with sustainability in mind was a coating that was curing at 2 degrees lower temperature. Therefore, I mean, at the end, our former customer was able to still use the same coating, but reduce their consumption in terms of energy for the oven. So that's a kind of typical example where you, by tweaking a little bit your product, you can really truly impact the process of your customer, and therefore also the environmental impact. Yeah,
excellent. No, that's really interesting. Again, 2 degrees sounds like a small margin.
Sounds like nothing, but at the end, this concrete case, it was a customer manufacturing bumpers. Plastic bumpers for cars. And they were manufacturing 2,000 bumpers per hour.
Exactly.
So it's not like they were just manufacturing 1 bumper now and then. It was truly a significant impact for them.
So there's a matter of efficiency in your manufacturing and energy savings.
And energy saving, then economic impact, obviously, but then also the environmental impact as well. Yeah,
exactly. And on that concept, right? So on economic impact, of course, we're going to talk a lot about sustainability, but I want to focus a little bit on economic impact and how, again, some of those sustainability initiatives, they frequently face hurdles because insufficient impact or that financial impact not being communicated or assessed in the right manner, right? So could you drive us a little bit about, how do we kind of improve the way we're measuring the impact, the economic impact of some of our sustainable innovations or investments?
Yeah, sometimes I would say that the issue is not in probably measuring them. Ultimately, like this concrete example we just said, you can measure, how many degrees, how much money eventually you are saving. But in my experience, what it is most difficult is to communicate this. How to properly inform whomever on the other side of the table is, so that they understand that what you are conveying, that you are bringing into the value equation, it is something that is worth considering. So that's typically the issue that you face. The way you will communicate this. Yeah.
I know you had some experience when it comes to kind of increasing portfolio profitability, right? And again, if you can maybe explain a little bit about that. I know it was a matter of, look, we were able to reduce formulas, and that led to increasing profitability on that particular portfolio. So how did you balance in that case some of those decisions on optimization, right, to reducing some of those formulas, and what impact did that have, if any, with the sustainability goals of the organization? I think often these two are seen as competing interests, right? Optimization or efficiency and sustainability.
Unfortunately, I would say,
where they can actually be complementary, right? So it'd be good to understand a bit more about that specific example, right? And then kind of the broader look of how competitiveness and sustainability interplay.
I understand. In that concrete example, what we did was, look at the whole product portfolio in the company, and analyze them from many different angles. It was a highly data-intensive exercise, trying to understand, the obviously the profitability by product, but then a combination of product, customers, and the formulations that were used in those products to, deliver certain functionalities.
Yeah.
So it was, as I said, a deep analysis also in looking into the cost to serve angle. Looking at, how much does this customer cost me so that I can serve him or her, and taking everything into a multi-dimensional analysis, and coming up to decisions on trying to reduce the number of products but not reduce the size of the business. Sometimes there are some decisions were needed in the sense of I need to resign this section of the business, but it was for a better good, for the better objective basically. And for those products that we decided to keep in the portfolio, they were probably very complex initially, but then we came up with the notion of something that I like very much, which is the rewarded complexity kind of approach, where you say, okay, we assume, this is a bit more complex, but since that it's still delivering value to the customer, it's really important, so we keep it. But we don't keep it for free. It's always typically a plus or a value-added kind of concept on top of it.
Of course. Yeah. I think the whole kind of customer relationship and customer relationship management is
particularly, I would say, in the B2B environment. The relationship with the customer, we also many times called customer intimacy.
Yeah,
it is critical. It's critical because customers are not buying a product just because the label is better than the label of the other brand, other product standing on the shelf. This is a complete different game where we need to really demonstrate that we are bringing value, and bringing value sometimes is allowing the customer to save costs, for instance.
100%. And I think we often forget that, like in the context of B2B, that it's still people, right? You're still interacting with people. So,
absolutely. Ultimately, the procurement side on the customer and the selling side on our side, they are human beings interacting and making a relationship. So
100%. Yeah. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. We discussed money, basically. We discussed economic impact, and we discussed customer relationships. But now let's talk about rules, right? Okay. Again, you've always worked in industries that are heavily regulated or regulated with quite details. And the regulatory landscape in the chemical industry, I think it has always been constantly evolving, but particularly now, again, there's a lot going on, especially in the sustainability space, right? So how are basically some of the strategies that you've implemented to proactively adapt to regulatory changes that are coming? What's a better kind of approach? Do we sit and wait till the rules are made? Or are there anything that we can do, as I say, proactively to make sure, hey, we're ready, we're getting the upper hand, I'm going to be better placed to access or continue to access and grow in my market, even once those regulations roll in?
Yeah, I think it is. You're already somehow giving a hint in your question on the answer I will give, actually, because at the end, many times regulatory or the regulatory landscape is seen as the as something that's a threat, that's something that we need to adapt. It's coming, and we are typically adopting as a company in a particular market space a bit of a passive role, and then let's wait until the rules are set, and then we will define our moves. In my experience, I think you should approach this in a complete different way, where you need to really involve yourself in those discussions, because ultimately regulatory or regulations are made there to set some boundaries, but those boundaries are not set, are typically set by people that's, legal or governments or, specific agencies. But you as a market player in those environments, you have a lot to say.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the first strategy here is to be very proactive and involve yourself in discussions, not only with regulatory bodies, but many other stakeholders, even non-NGOs or even customers. So really be part of the discussion. So then when the regulations are made, I mean, they don't really trap you by surprise. I mean, at the end, it is something that you somehow could foresee coming in much, I mean, more or less in a way, yeah? So that being proactive, I think it is the key thing here in then making it easier to adapt, because then it's not probably an adaptation you need to do, but simply just implement the things you were discussing with the other stakeholders in the market. Yeah,
definitely. No, I think kind of bringing all stakeholders to the table is key, and that's
always
an advice. Let's say as much as it is for the business as it is for the regulator as well.
Yes.
I think the European Commission has tried and to an extent successfully do that. And a lot of what we're seeing in the EU Green Deal is, again, with input from NGOs, input from industry leaders, and input from kind of the regulators, the legislators themselves, and being able to kind of balance that out, right? I think that's a benefit, that's a plus of what we're seeing. And I can understand as well where we've seen deficiencies in that process, that it must be a difficult balance act to create, right?
Correct.
Now, there's another area that is particularly hitting, let's say, the European regulators and the European industry leaders, which is competitiveness, right? And particularly in, again, capital-intensive industries, chemicals is one of them, but chemical, steel, materials, anything that is kind of industrial manufacturing has been kind of raising their hands and saying, look, we're losing to Asian markets. We can't compete because we're overly regulated here. They are not there, and they still keep accessing our markets. And there's all this whole complaint about leveling the playing field, right? And without getting too political, right? What I want to do is actually kind of gain from your experience an example where actually being perhaps more creative or more innovative in a way has helped companies be more competitive and turn the tables, right? I know in your experience you have one where actually, instead of worrying about Asian competitors in Europe, you switch that around and you say, well, we actually created something here that is highly competitive.
Correct.
We're going to take it to Asia. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, that was a bit of, because at the end, when you look at how the regulatory landscape evolves, I mean, typically you have Europe usually on the running on the head and being the first in trying to protect the environment, protect everything. But then ultimately Asia slowly, steadily takes over and somehow gets inspiration from Europe, and many of the regulations that were really breakthrough here in Europe 10 years ago, you see them now starting in Asia. So taking that into account, in one of my experiences, what we did was basically, okay, we did have already a solution here in Europe which was compliant to the new regulations. So we somehow advanced ourselves and brought that to Asia. So instead of being afraid of what's going to be coming from Asia, we said, okay, listen, we have something here in Europe which is working for the current European regulations. We do know, looking at history, that eventually these regulations take it over Asia as well. So we advanced ourselves and we launched this product, this technology in Asia. Setting us somehow at the forehead of the competitive landscape there, and gaining market in Asia. So I think that's a little bit the thing. As we were saying in the regulatory discussions, it's not about just taking a passive role and complaining things are happening, I need to adapt. It's a bit like the easy way, I would say. Turn it around, as you said, and try to see the positive thing what you really have and make something with that.
100%. And I think, again, Europe, just because of the reality of our kind of ecosystem, right? We're not raw material rich, right? We're not mineral rich like other regions. The whole context of circularity and sustainability and this is an area where we have an incredible competitive advantage because there's innovations that have been created here and where we could take the lead. And unfortunately, we'll see that. I think there's been missed opportunities on that. The renewable energy space, the solar space is one example of that, where Europe certainly had the lead for a time.
But relaxed a little bit on the success or whatever.
And those who don't relax then took over and are now leading that sector. So I think that to your point, right, that's the message here. Don't relax and actually, hey, let's take some of that proactive energy and get ahead of the regulation, right?
Indeed.
So again, thank you for that. We're getting towards the end of our conversation. So now I want to ask a question that is kind of more forward-looking, right? So forward-looking and talking about technology, talking, of course, with our angle about digital technologies specifically. What is the role that innovative digital technologies are going to have, or you believe are going to have in the kind of B2B space of industrial manufacturing in particular?
Well, I don't think it's. I mean, I would probably rephrase the question, not saying it's gonna have, because I think it's already having today. And I think that one thing is that sustainability and everything that sustainability involves and implies into a B2B business has came to stay. I mean, that's not going to be moving away anytime soon. I think, it's going to be even more critical. Therefore, any system, any tool that will support organizations to manage huge amounts of data and making sense of the data that's being generated in capital-intensive, asset-intensive industries will be key. Yeah, and how we can really certify, like, again, if we look at the supply chain in the manufacturing industry, if you want to certify that your end product is really somehow sustainability friendly, then you need to certify that everything that you've been used to produce that final product, it is also coming from sustainability sources. There are certification plans that can allow you to do that. But then at the end, if you're able to truly certify that this product you are picking up, back to the bumper example, that bumper that this particular OEM manufacturing company is putting in a car, it is fully made out of, as much as possible, sustainable ingredients, certified sustainable ingredients, that's going to make a difference, I think. And
absolutely. Sure. And I think that plays into basically a window of opportunity that businesses have now, because if we look at the kind of the bumper example, right, again, if you're able to justify or verify that, you could do that with the use of, for instance, a digital product passport, being able to demonstrate raw material provenance, product composition, sustainability impact, or lower carbon footprint of your products. Yeah. And I say window of opportunity because essentially DPPs are planned. They are coming in the regulator. They're going to expand through industry. So I think right now is the opportunity where actually you could leverage that data for more profitability, for improved margins, for improved revenue streams, product premiums, and so on. But that's going to end whenever the regulation is hit or it's here, and then everyone has to play by the same rules. Indeed. Right? Then
those commoditized somehow.
Those product premiums disappear. Right? So certainly that lack of relaxation and moving to action, I think, is the kind of core message or conclusion I take from today.
Yes.
Sebastian, it's been a pleasure having you here in another one of our Green Supply Chain Talks, benefiting again from your insights and your experience. Before we wrap up, any final thoughts from your end? And particularly, if people want to reach out, what's the best way to do that?
Well, first and foremost, again, thank you once again for the invitation. It's been really great having this discussion and meeting you. I think, as we just said before, sustainability, it is really key. And any industry, and I'm not only talking about asset intensive or capital companies, but also service oriented organizations, they should really look into the sustainability angle, that's for sure.
Yeah.
If people want to reach out to me, you can easily find me in LinkedIn. There's my profile. I guess you're going to be also putting this in the video, and I will be happy to connect and hear about what people have to say about this conversation. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thank you again. If I could summarize again some of the points of our conversation today, sustainability is here to stay. You can use that to improve your position as a business, and not only to access the European market, but actually to export those sustainable innovations elsewhere. Great to hear from such an experienced industry leader. Thank you everyone for watching. Keep an eye out for new content. Make sure you follow us on LinkedIn and YouTube, and stay tuned for the next Green Supply Chain Talks.